Tonight on Q2, troubled waters.
Frustrations on the rise as the city now looks to raise water rates just months after software troubles.
Everybody knows somebody's got a water issue.
Plus consolidating with the city.
If we don't consolidate, the rates will definitely go up.
The ratepayers are telling me they don't want consolidation.
Seats on the Heights Water District up for grabs this election day with a possible merger on the table.
And
I enjoy hot coffee in a styrofoam cup because it keeps it hot. And this bill is a hot mess.
saving styrofoam.
This bill would create a new government program costing taxpayers $300,000.
Governor Greg Gianforte vetoes a bipartisan bill and gets creative with his messaging.
The MTN 530 News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Well, good evening and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea Lutz. Tonight, another blow to residents when it comes to those water charges. On the heels of skyrocketing bills from a software change, the city is now proposing rate increases for water and wastewater fees.
It also comes with the decision that late penalties will begin to be enforced for the first time since that software change. Charlie Kleps has the latest on this nearly year-long saga.
For months, we've shared one story after another.
Concern, panic, and now I'm just frustrated.
Stories of Billings residents concerned about charges on their water bills. Many were confused, others upset.
I think just general frustration.
All of it centered around a universal need.
Water's essential. Like, you can't live your life without water.
Cassidy Burkhart was one of those residents. She saw increases in her bill that didn't make sense.
It had been consistently $60 a month, and then it just jumped up to over $100. So I was like, oh, this is wrong.
Jeremiah Fisher was another.
When you're looking at like quadrupling rates with no explanation, it's really frustrating.
All of those claims prompted the city to hire an independent firm to audit the city system, ultimately determining there was no evidence of systematic overbilling. Instead, the audit determined a change to new billing software created confusion, but the damage was already done.
That software conversion did not go as well as we wanted it to and needed it to, and that caused a lot of issues.
Many stopped paying their bills. In February, 38% of water bills were past due. The city granted a grace period, allowing property owners to catch up.
Late fees will need to come back into play and shutoffs.
Last week, this letter was sent to Billings homeowners explaining that late penalty fees will start to take effect in July. And on top of that, the city is also proposing a 2 to 4% rate increase for water or wastewater rates.
The 2% for next year is all critical to funding capital.
Kukulski says those rates are always reviewed every couple of years and increases are common, and says the city will wait until July of 2026.
It is hard for folks. People would prefer that there not be adjustments, but like I said, the worst thing we could do is ignore those assets.
But for residents like Jeremiah Fisher, a rate increase is the last thing he wants to see. He's been making payments.
Looks like I owe $995.
But still has a long way to go.
Having that idea that the water could be turned off with no great explanation, there's no problem here. It's just really frustrating.
There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can say to them to make them listen to us. What are you going to do? You can't not use water.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Thanks, Charlie. Those water bill issues are not impacting many Billings Heights residents right now, but they could be depending on how today's election shakes out.
Well, several seats on the Heights Water Board are up for grabs, and the main issue for candidates is whether to consolidate with the City Public Works.
Tonight, our David J. is standing by live, breaking down this race and why it's a button topic. David?
Russ, Andrea, we're here on Belknap Avenue. The big water tank's right there. Down the street is the water plant, and this is where it all starts. The city of Billings treats the water here, sells it to the Heights Water District, which then sells it to about 90% of the Heights residents. The big issue is whether or not to merge the Heights operation with the city of Billings. Two of the candidates who support consolidation include a former board member.
I can't fathom that it wouldn't be less expensive for ratepayers to be with the city, simply because as a business, if you've got a middleman in the way, it's always more expensive, and we're a middleman. We don't produce the water.
Pam Ellis has a campaign for consolidation with board member Greg Erpenbach.
The report is going to give some things that the water district is going to have to do and some things the city's going to have to do before consolidation can even take place. And whether or not those can occur, I won't know until I see the report.
Erpenbach is waiting for the report from Morris & Merrily, a company hired to look into the issue, before he commits fully to the idea of consolidation. One of the candidates who is against says he's concerned the report will favor consolidation.
If we can get 3 people on this board that's against consolidation, we could lock down a no vote for anything that's out there at that point. That's why it's so important that people really look at the issues.
One candidate, Butch Bailey, was not available the day we did the interviews, but he has been campaigning with 3 other candidates.
We're fighting for, and not only for ourselves, we're fighting for everybody else in the district too, because there's over $200 million worth of infrastructure in this up here. And if the city takes this over and just hands it, if this board hands it over to them, that'll be a crime.
Fellow candidate David Graves wants voters to make the decision.
Our platform is that we don't believe we should consolidate with the city. And I personally believe, and I believe others, if there is consolidation, it should be voted on by the ratepayers.
Six candidates all have had some connection or interest in the Heights Water Board through the years. 3 will be elected to join the other 3 that are on the board currently. That's the latest from out here. Andrea, Russ, we'll send it back to you.
All right, David, thanks so much for reporting live for us out there. Well, this election day is also a big one for school districts across Yellowstone County, with several board seats up for grabs, including in Billings, as well as several levies. School District 2 decided against asking for funding this time around. However, it's a different story in Laurel, with 4 levies on the ballot. Those general levies cover everything from school safety to maintenance and staffing. It's been nearly 2 decades since a general fund levy was approved in the city. But Superintendent Matt Torek says this is needed.
We haven't passed a general fund levy in Laurel for about 18 years. We're very aware of kind of the tax weariness that is Montana right now, and we only ask for things that we need.
And in the past 2 years, Laurel has cut 19 teacher positions, and now there's worry that more cuts could come. Meanwhile, Elder Grove, Elysian, and Canyon Creek school districts are also looking for levies this year.
In Billings, School District 2 has 2 seats up for grabs. That includes District 5, a seat guaranteed to be filled by a newcomer. In that race, public accountant Jordan Giudice will face off against Amanda Brown. Giudice is currently the treasurer of PTA at Poly Drive Elementary, while Brown is a homeschool parent. Meanwhile, in District 7, former West High boys soccer coach Luke Ashmore is challenging incumbent John Von Langen, who is seeking re-election.
Well, styrofoam containers will live to see another day in Montana. It comes after Governor Greg Gianforte vetoed a bipartisan bill to ban most styrofoam in the state. And he delivered that veto in a unique fashion. Tonight, our Hannah Pettiferi has more on the announcement and the reaction to it.
This is what Governor Gianforte thinks of a styrofoam bill that passed the legislature with bipartisan support.
The state banning styrofoam is costly government overreach.
Because of that, he's vetoing the ban. A couple weeks ago, we talked to a server at Montana Brewing Company who was excited to see where this bill could go.
I think being a leader in doing this is going to set a precedent that our kids and future generations are going to look back on and say, like, there's where it started. Here's who started it.
The House Bill 477 passed with bipartisan support to phase out polystyrene, which is in styrofoam, in single-use food containers with certain exceptions. However, on May 1st, when the bill landed on the governor's desk, he turned to social media, calling it a hot mess, and vetoed it.
A bill just came to my desk that bans styrofoam containers for food and drinks in Montana. This bill would create a new government program costing taxpayers $300,000.
He says it would also force higher costs on 7,500 Montana restaurants and businesses, as well as consumers.
The state banning styrofoam is costly government overreach. And like many Montanans, I enjoy hot coffee in a styrofoam cup because it keeps it hot. And this bill is a hot mess.
Back at Montana Brewing Company, the governor's stunt is not hitting the mark.
Gianforte seems to really be invested in the styrofoam and wants to keep it here.
That being said, the restaurant will be unaffected because they don't use styrofoam containers.
I'd imagine the people that fought hard to get it passed will be disappointed.
In Billings, Hannah Pettiferi, MTN News.
The Billings City Council had a multi-million-dollar choice to make for its 2026 budget. follow the city charter or follow a new state mandate. Well, the council is deciding to follow the state mandate, but there could still be some tough decisions ahead. It all stems from a bill passed by the state legislature that cuts property taxes, which also reduces Billings property tax revenue. At one point, the estimated shortfall was more than $8 million, which would have likely led to cuts in public safety. In the end, council voted to raise the city's mill cap limit to $240.
So I am very loath to try and cut public safety, but there is no other way to make up a $10 million shortfall. So I firmly believe this is the right path based on the legal analysis. We move forward with the 240 mills. We take our time, think about what a ballot question would look like.
Finance Director Andy Zeller says this means next year's proposed budget will still be short about $2 million because there's no inflation built into it. The council will begin working out the 2026 budget on May 19th.